So the American people, Trump sold them a bill of goods when he was running. They're very quickly getting wise to him. And we're seeing that in how the American people are reacting.
Now this is interesting. Chuck Schumer is claiming the American people are getting very wise to Donald Trump. However, I would argue the American people are getting very wise, and we can see exactly what Chuck Schumer is doing recently. You know it's bad when Axios, a left-leaning publication, is even calling out Chuck Schumer for appearing on television a lot lately. So in this video, we will go over the failed success of Chuck Schumer trying to rebrand himself and trying to make a comeback. It's not working. Now, before we start the video, please like the video. It's the #1 way you can help this channel, and it helps others see the videos as well. Let us begin.
Like, this might be a moment of rare bipartisan agreement. Chuck Schumer can go. Like, he needs to go sit down with Gen Pop at this point. He's not getting anything right. He's not talking to the American people. He could take that little voice and say, we're beating them. Doing what? By voting with them? What are you talking about, Chuck? I'm over him right now.
But I do think Senator Schumer's shelf life probably wasn't all that long anyhow. He's been around a long time, and he could probably see the end from here. So whether it's, another 3 months or another 3 years, it wasn't going to be another 5 or 10 years. So he's burning political capital for what he thought was right, and we should at least acknowledge that.
Now, this is the circus the Democrat Party really has created. Again, remember, Chuck Schumer wanted to keep the government open because he thought shutting down the government was a bad idea. Turns out that was a bad idea to try and do the right thing. So to show you how wild it's getting for Chuck Schumer, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, and NBC, he appeared at least 10 times since early March to try and pummel Donald Trump, to try and regain the trust of the Democrats within the Democrat Party and the voters, to make it seem like, hey, I'm on your side here, people.
We have had rule of law since the Magna Carta, okay? And if that happens and the rule of law goes by the wayside, I believe that there will be very, very, there will be immediate and strong reaction from one end of the country to the other in ways that we have never seen. And that's what will happen. And it's not just up to us. The people will have to rise up, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, not just, people, everybody. But our democracy will be at stake then. And if the people...
what do you think of the job that Chuck Schumer is doing? Would you ever challenge him, do you think?
I think that what we need right now is a united Senate Democratic caucus that can stand up for this country and not vote for cloture and not vote for this bill. And I think that the strength that we have is in this moment. Reconciliation and all of these, Republicans do not need Democratic votes for that. They need it for this. And so the strength of our leadership in this moment is going to demonstrate the strength of our caucus. And I cannot urge enough how bad of an idea it is to empower and enable Donald Trump and Elon Musk in this moment. It is dangerous and it is reckless.
Well, now look, just to give you guys some context, AOC is currently on a tour and of course has no problem with throwing Chuck Schumer under the bus. I mean, AOC, if she's going to move on to the next level, becoming a senator, she's going to take his job. But now I even found some more clips where Democrats really are even afraid to either praise Chuck Schumer or to completely throw him under the bus. Democrats just don't know what to do with Chuck Schumer. Check out this insane clip.
Did you approve of what Senator Schumer decided to do to let that funding bill go through, not let the government shut down? And do you think he's the right person to lead the Democrats in the Senate?
Listen, we have benefited tremendously here in the state of New York of having the influence of the majority leader for the Senate, our home senator. Look at the CHIPS and Science Act. We have Micron with 50,000 jobs coming to upstate New York. He helped get that through the Congress and directed that programming here in New York. The Gateway Tunnel, thousands of good-paying union jobs are being created. What we're doing at the 2nd Avenue subway. So he has been my partner, and I don't want him to lose that clout. Why do we want someone else in a different state that have that kind of weight in Washington? I say keep him right where he is. He's doing a great job in that respect. And people can debate whether or not that was the right decision. But don't forget who brought us here. The Republicans created this scenario.
Do you think it was the right decision?
They created the chaos. We need to point the finger where it belongs.
Do you think it was the right decision?
Republicans created the chaos. We need to point the fingers where it belongs.
A notable non-answer. I do want to ask you about what the president did.
You're close with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Some of your fellow House Democrats say and not just progressives, by the way. We've heard that moderates have said this too, that they're ready to support her to challenge Chuck Schumer in a Democratic primary. Would you get behind that?
That's 4 years from now. If you were asking me at least in 2 years, then I would have an absolute answer. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment. We don't even know what elections will look like in 4 years, if we will have elections. And so I definitely think that younger, fresher leadership may be something that many of us, not just depending on what part of the spectrum you're on, but many Americans may be looking for, especially in the state of New York.
Now, you guys are going to love this next part. So Chuck Schumer is also trying to get in with this Democrat trend of trying to convince the American public that Donald Trump told everybody to buy into the low end of the stock market and all of these politicians made money. Now, MSNBC asked about this. Hey, Democrats, do you guys actually have any evidence? Well, here's the answer. And again, Chuck Schumer is a massive proponent in trying to push this narrative.
Do you believe that Democrats have any real evidence that anyone in the administration profited off of the president's policies and announcements, or is this just a fishing expedition?
You know, here's the problem with Donald Trump and congressional Republicans is our whole system was designed to have checks and balances. Now, Trump has designed an administration like none we've ever seen before. He is attacking the very agencies that are supposed to have independent oversight of these kind of actions. So we see him hiring people based upon their loyalty, not based upon their expertise. The real group that should be holding investigations and accountability and even just oversight is Congress.
But is there any evidence, Senator? Do you think there's any evidence that anyone profited off of these tariffs?
There is enough of an offense here, there's enough smoke here that should demand congressional hearings. We are a separate and equal branch of government. The Constitution lays out very clearly that Congress is not supposed to be spineless and submissive. It is supposed to hold oversight over the president. These are real, legitimate, justifiable questions, and not to have hearings, not to do any kind of oversight undermines the faith we have in our government, undermines the trust we need in our nation right now. And so from the signal gate all the way to this kind of symbols or signs of corruption, Congress should be doing its job.
Now, the icing on the cake is that Chuck Schumer is against the SAVE Act. Again, Chuck Schumer is supposed to be a moderate, and even in New York City, they voted that you need to have voter ID or you need to be an American citizen in order to vote. So what the heck happened? Well, again, my educated guess is that Chuck Schumer, he found out you're not allowed to be moderate anymore. It's either you're super far left or you're not a Democrat. But watch this clip from Fox News. It's hilarious.
My response is Chuck Schumer's lying again when it comes to actual voting policy to protect the franchise for the American people. Number one, there's this thing called Real ID, which every state in the country now complies with, which actually protects women who go through the process of changing their name. So Chuck Schumer's lying and he's gaslighting. People need to remember that back in, I think it was 2022, you had Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, who were up in arms when Georgia changed their voting laws, rightly, mind you, and they followed the Florida model when it came to election law. And they went down to Georgia calling it Jim Crow 2.0, and they were lying because the facts were more black people in Georgia voted in the midterm elections than in the history of the state of Georgia. So once again, the Democrats are gaslighting. They are lying. They should be joining us to protect the franchise of voting in the United States of America. One thing I'll add is we've had more than 30 million people come into our country illegally. We've already seen through the work of Doge that they have had access to register into all kind of programs. So all we're saying is proof of citizenship to make sure you're voting in American elections. This is common sense stuff. Once again, the Democrats simply are not serious. They would prefer to gaslight than do what's right on behalf of the American people.
Now, even the Trump administration has caught wind that Chuck Schumer is appearing on television a lot lately, and this is what the Trump administration had to say about Chuck Schumer on his random switches on the stances.
In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future economic growth. And Chuck Schumer said that in 2007. Finally, in 2025, President Trump is taking action. Recently defeated Democrat Sherrod Brown said on deficits in 2012 that our deficit then at China had reached an all-time high, and it was on pace to recede last year's record. The trade deficit had cost American workers millions of jobs at the time. These are the words of Democrats years ago. It is about time America finally has a president who is taking action to restore those millions of jobs back to the United States of America, to boost our manufacturing industry. He's doing what's right for the American people. It will take a lot of labor. It will take a lot of effort. But that's exactly what the American people elected this president to do.
Now again, I do want to remind you, Axios is a left-leaning publication. Here's what they're saying. Schumer's team has also increased the rate of his public press events on Capitol Hill over the last month, mainly press conferences bashing the Trump administration and the GOP agenda, even though he wanted to work with the Trump administration as far as not shutting down the government. The on-again, off-again tariffs provoked enough GOP infighting to pull the spotlight away from the Democrat fighting. They're busy fighting with each other because their programs are so unpopular, Schumer gleefully said at a press conference on Tuesday. Read between the lines. When pressed about his leadership position, Schumer argues Democrats have united around their opposition to Trump. I don't know about that. If we keep united and keep our focus trained on Trump, we can certainly bring down his popularity and make those Republicans who vote with him pay that political price, Schumer said when asked about his leadership position on MSNBC last week. So again, I will leave it up to you guys how you feel about all of this, but I do like that even Democrats are pointing out, hold on, Chuck Schumer, you're appearing on all of these shows and now you're like the most anti-Trump guy ever, when in reality, we know how you've always voted for all the time you've been in office. You've always been moderate. You've always been the Democrat who's wanted to take on China, not shut down the government. I think we can all read between the lines. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys later, and God bless.